Large eddy simulation is a high-fidelity modeling tool that is being used more and more in the wind energy sector. But before you set up a large eddy simulation, you have to decide about your grid spacing or resolution. So you could wonder, how small should your grid size be in order for the results to be accurate enough? So how small is small enough? In this presentation, I'll explore this question by presenting a grid refinement study that we did for a 1 gigawatt offshore wind farm. The tool that we use is a mesoscale-coupled large eddy simulation code called Aspire. Aspire simulates the full complexity of real weather as is illustrated in the animation on the right-hand side. Aspire is globally used for wind resource assessments and energy yield assessments. But in order to do so successfully for clients, two conditions must be met. First, the result must be accurate, obviously, but the results must also be affordable in terms of computational cost. One parameter that directly influences the computational cost is the grid spacing. So the finer the grid spacing, the smaller the grid cells, the higher the computational cost. But the impact of the grid spacing on the accuracy is less clear. That's exactly the question we want to answer in this presentation. And we'll inspect the impact of the grid spacing at several different levels. We'll look at the impact on the free stream conditions, wind farm quantities like wind farm production and wind farm wake losses, and in the end we'll zoom into the impact of the grid spacing on turbine level production. For this study we took a planned North Sea wind farm as a case study. It consists of 67 turbines of 15 megawatt each. Aspire, so the LES model, uses prescribed boundary conditions, which are obtained by larger domain, so-called parent simulations. The setup of the study is illustrated in the figure below. The panel on the right-hand side gives the large eddy simulation domain with the wind farm included. The LES gets its boundary conditions from a larger mesoscale domain, which on its turn gets its boundary conditions from ERA 5. For the present study, we simulated 30 days that were selected from the year 2023. 4 LES grid spacings were considered: 133 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters, and 25 meters. The resolution of the finest grid spacings was 25 meters, and for the coarsest grid spacing, 33 meters, as is indicated in the table on the right-hand side. In the remainder of these presentations, the different simulations are indicated as in the titles in the figures below, where the numbers indicate the horizontal and the vertical grid spacing respectively. In order to be able to isolate the impact of grid spacing alone, the horizontal and vertical size of the simulation domain is kept constant between the 4 simulations. In addition, simulations with the turbine thrust set to 0 are performed in order to gain the gross production. Turbines are simulated by an actuated disk model. The figure below already gives some insight in the impact of the grid spacing. So what you see here is the wind field for the mean wind field for northeasterly directions at 150 meters height for the 4 grid spacings, with the finer resolutions towards the right. So what you see is that the wakes of the individual turbines are much more pronounced and deeper in the 25 meter simulations, and that for the 33 meter simulations, the individual turbine wakes are smeared out. On the other hand, when you look at a downstream turbine wake, it's hard to see a difference between the 4 panels. The numbers in red indicate the computational cost of the 4 simulations with respect to the 100 meter simulation. So you see that the 25 meter simulation is 16 times more expensive than the 100 meter simulation. Now let's dive into the results. The panels here present from left to right the mean wind speed profile, the mean profile of wind speed standard deviation, and the mean profile of turbulence intensity. Looking at the mean wind speed profile, the difference between the 3 LES grid spacings is small, but non-zero. There's a small difference. For the 2 other panels, the dashed lines indicate the resolved contribution only, and the solid lines indicate the sum of the resolved and the subgrid scale model contribution. So what we see is that the sum of the resolved and subgrid turbulence remains constant, but the distribution between the 2 changes. So you see that the finer resolutions, the resolved contribution is larger. But since the total turbulence is the same, this is an indication that the LES is actually doing quite a good job. Next, we look at the wind farm production and losses. The left-hand panel shows the gross production in blue and the wake production in green, all relative to the gross production of the 25 meter simulation. The right-hand panel indicates the corresponding production losses. The difference in gross production is like 1%, and this is indicated with the small change in the free stream wind speed that was shown on the previous slide. The right-hand panel shows that the impact of the grid spacing on the wake losses is within 0.6 percent point. The impact on the wake production varies by 1.6 percent point between the 133 and the 25 meter grid spacing. So we can break these results down, for instance, like in the plots here, where the production losses are plotted as a function of the wind speed on the left-hand side and as a function of the wind direction on the right-hand side. Generally, there's a good agreement between the four grid spacings, so the impact on the grid spacing is not that large. In the previous slide, I said that the impact of the grid spacing on the production losses is within 0.6 percent point, but actually that's kind of a bit of cheating. As for the rated conditions, the wake losses are 0 anyway, and you get this part of the answer for free. Therefore, the table below also indicates the production losses for the wind speeds between 6 and 12 meters per second. So the wake losses in this wind speed regime are much higher, like 30% in this case. And the difference between the four simulations is also a bit higher, namely 1.2 percent point maximum. Now let's look at downstream wind farm wakes. The panels on the right-hand side show the velocity deficit, so basically the wind farm wake, along transects over the domain. So the transects start at the northwesterly corner of the domain, then we move to the northeasterly corner, to the southeasterly corner, southwesterly, and back to the northwest again. So the transects follow the dashed line in the maps on the left-hand side in a clockwise way. For example, the maps on the left-hand side are for the 60-degree wind direction sector. You see, it's for northeasterly flow, so the wake is directed towards the southwest. And when you look at a corresponding panel at the right-hand side, you indeed see a large velocity deficit for the southwest direction. So when you look at these 12 directional plots, we see that the impact of the grid spacing on the velocity deficits, so on the downstream wake, wind farm wake, is quite small, although for some wind direction sectors differences exist. Now we zoom in to the production on the turbine level. We do so by looking at a so-called pattern of production. Pattern of production is calculated by calculating the mean power of a certain turbine divided by the mean power of all turbines. So for turbines that produce more than average, the value is larger than 1, and for turbines that produce less than average, the value is smaller than 1. So it's an indication how spatial patterns are represented. In the panels here, the pattern of production for the 103 meters, the 100 meters, and the 50 meters are plotted against the pattern of production of the 25-meter simulation on the x-axis. So these are omnidirectional pattern of productions, and we see that the impact of the grid spacing is small. The correlation is very high. It becomes more challenging when we plot this pattern of production for small wind direction sectors, which is done here. So this is for 10-degree wind direction sectors. And now we see that the pattern of production for the coarser simulations start to deviate from the finest grid spacing. The general pattern is still the same, but correlation decreases. Let's zoom in even further to turbine wakes, direction-dependent turbine wake for specific turbines. So we do so by looking at a power ratio, which is defined as the turbine power divided by the mean power of the first row turbines. So the upper panel gives this power ratio for turbine 1, which is the turbine at the far east corner of the wind farm. For easterly directions, the power ratio of turbine 1 is 1 or close to 1, because for these directions the turbine is part of the first row. For westerly directions, indicated by the green arrow, the power ratio is considerably smaller than 1, and that is because the turbine is waked by the wakes of many upstream turbines. And you also see that the impact of the grid spacing is small. Then we move to turbine 2, which is in the lower panel, and there we see something interesting. So the pattern looks quite similar to that one of turbine 1, but for southeasterly direction we see something interesting, namely quite a big difference between the different simulations. So for this southeasterly direction, turbine 2 is waked by just one single upstream turbine. And because the coarsest grid spacing smear out the wake of this single upstream turbine, it overestimates the production of turbine 2 for this wind direction sector. So this whole picture also kind of explains why wind farm quantities like wind farm production and wind farm wake losses only have a slight dependency on the grid spacing, because in the whole complexity of changing weather and changing wind directions, the merged turbines wakes that constantly overlap, they dominate the solution. So having seen these differences of the impact of the grid spacing, how significant are these differences? And you can approach that question in different ways, but here we compare the impact of the grid spacing to the overall modeling uncertainty. We distinguish between modeling the wind climate right and modeling the wind farm losses right. The picture on the right-hand side is taken from a large validation study that was performed for only offshore sites. And here we see that the uncertainty in modeling the wind is easily multiple tenths of meters per second, which is larger than the impact of the grid spacing that we've seen in the previous slides. On the left-hand side shows the result of validation on internal wake losses that was presented last year. So on the y-axis, the simulated wake losses are plotted, and on the x-axis, observed internal wake losses. So each dot here represents the wake loss for a particular wind turbine, so it's a wind farm. Each dot represents the wake losses for a single wind farm. So this is for like 10 wind farms. What we see is that the model picks up the large variations between the different wind farms quite nicely. But we also see there's some spread along the one-to-one line. So the number in the orange circle indicates the standard deviation, which is in this case 1.7 percent point, which is larger again than the sensitivity to the grid spacing that we saw in the presentation. So these results indicate that the overall uncertainty in both modeling wind conditions and wind farm losses is larger than the impact of the grid spacing that we have seen in this study. So to conclude, what is the impact of the LES grid spacing on the results? The answer is, it depends. On a wind farm level, the impact of the grid spacing is generally limited. At least also the differences that we find are smaller than the overall modeling uncertainty. For simulating and studying wakes of individual turbines, the impact of the grid spacing is large. Also, it should be noted that a 25-meter resolution setup is much more expensive, in our case a factor of 16 more expensive than a 100-meter scale large eddy simulation study.